Thieves World was originated by Robert Lynn Asprin and Lynn Abbey to create a shared setting for sword and sorcery stories, so authors could jump in and jump out, telling stories with their characters and the characters of other writers. Set primarily in the frontier city of Sanctuary, which has seen better days, thieves, adventurers, and wizards live, die, and ply their questionable trades in the old port town. The current emperor, eager to send his popular and idealistic stepbrother far from the imperial seat of power, elevates him to governorship of Sanctuary, a position the prince accepts with enthusiasm, believing he will rescue the ancient city and make it safe for decent people. What the prince doesn't understand is that Sanctuary has mostly been abandoned by decent people, and the current populace of scoundrels don't look kindly on his deluded notions of restoring the city to righteousness. This first book contains 8 stories of characters on the fringes as they navigate the attempts of the prince and his elite guards, called the Hellhounds, in their attempt to reshape the persona of the city. This reading project is sort of an informal buddy read with Randy Ray, the literate Texan, and Gareth from Books, Songs, and Other Magic. We're taking time in 2026 to read or reread at least the first 3 anthologies in the Thieves World series. I'll have links below to their channels so you can see their videos on these books. While I'm thinking on it, I'll ask you to take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel of another YouTube creator you enjoy, like Randy and Gareth, or the algorithm will sick the hellhounds on you. The tone of these stories is gritty and dangerous, like old-school pulp writing. If you're a fan of Robert E. Howard's Conan stories, or the Fafford and Gray Mauser stories by Fritz Leiber, or even Carl Edward Wagner's Kane stories, you'll find something to enjoy in this collection. The characters are all either criminals or operating in what we would call the gray market. Many of the characters weave through each other's stories, making the setting feel grimy and lived in. There are some moments of levity and irony to take the edge off, so while often dark and perilous, the stories never feel oppressive. I'd liken it to hard-boiled fiction and stories by Dashiell Hammett, James M. Cain, or Raymond Chandler, where the protagonists, sometimes themselves morally compromised, must navigate a world of both interpersonal and societal corruption. Add to this fantastical elements like sorcerers, alchemists, and divine entities, and you have a pretty good idea of what the overall atmosphere of Thieves World is like. With the rotating cast of characters, we get to see a lot of different aspects of the setting, but what becomes clear is that the central character is the city of Sanctuary itself. A decaying, once grand metropolis that's still full of mystery and danger, it is more than just a backdrop for fantasy adventure. While each story has its own plot and action personal to the characters involved, the looser, overarching conflict is between the prince, trying to enforce his idealistic vision onto the city, and the ways in which its inhabitants adapt or rebel against it. This first book has several strong stories. Paul Anderson's The Gate of Flying Knives is the most unabashedly a sword and sorcery adventure tale, and Robert Asprin's The Price of Doing Business introduces the ruthless ex-gladiator turned criminal entrepreneur, Jubal. My favorite of the bunch, however, is Myrtis by Christine DeWeese, who by most accounts is just a pen name for Lynn Abbey. In this story, the protagonist, Myrtis, is Madam of Sanctuary's high-end brothel. An edict from the prince, however, means a new, onerous tax is levied on all such establishments, which Myrtis rightly concludes is not meant to be paid, but to force them into criminal prostitution, slavery, or into abandoning the city. Unwilling to let her wealth and position be taken away, she calls in favors, disrupts the local economy, and gets help from Lithande, the only wizard in Sanctuary she can trust, all to make a gamble on gaining the allegiance of the incorruptible enforcers of the prince. What I appreciate about this story is how it is essentially a noir tale told from the point of view of the femme fatale. Myrtis has no official standing, no army, and no one to whom she can appeal, so she makes her way in the world with her brains, her looks, and her courage. Most of the stories were good, but this one drew me in most of all. Conceptually, Thieves World is unique as a shared setting for authors of speculative fiction. It reminds me of comic books and how artists and writers invent characters that later artists and writers pick up and use to tell stories. Sometimes this works really well, and other times it can turn sour. We'll have to see which way these stories ultimately go, but this first volume is certainly a winner and worth reading if you can get a copy. But what do you, the audience at home, think? How familiar are you with Thieves World and the anthologies in the series? Are you intrigued by the premise of a shared collaborative fantasy setting? What story from this first volume is your favorite? Feel free to share your thoughts and recommendations in the comments. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my peculiar notions. If you appreciate this channel and want to support it, you know what to do. Until next time, read some good books, live, and be well.